A black maid in Cleveland opened her apartment door on a quiet Tuesday morning and saw a man in a tailored gray suit crying on her welcome mat. He looked at her with trembling lips and whispered 4 words that stopped her heart cold. "Ma'am, I have been looking for you for 22 years. His name was David Adeyemi, and he had built his fortune around a single piece of paper she never expected him to keep. Before we get into this true reunion story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment with your city and country so I know who is listening with me today. 22 years before that knock on her door, Grace Okonkwo was a 43-year-old Nigerian immigrant working the night cleaning shift at a Cleveland hospital. She came to America with her 8-year-old daughter Maya, leaving her husband behind in Lagos because she could not afford to bring him. She scrubbed blood off floors that nurses were too tired to look at. Most nights, she walked 2 miles home in the dark because the last bus left at 11 and her shift ended at midnight. On the coldest night of January 1998, she heard a young man gasping for air behind a row of trash cans near the loading dock. Grace dropped to her knees on the freezing concrete and pressed her uniform sleeve against the deep gash above his eye. The boy was maybe 17. His jacket was torn and his hands were shaking hard. He looked at her with the kind of fear only someone who has just escaped real danger understands. Grace did not ask his name. She walked him into the staff kitchen, locked the door behind them, and gave him her daughter's packed dinner of rice and stew still warm in the container. Before he left, she tore a corner off a hospital supply form and wrote 5 words in pencil. "Be brave. Someone is waiting for you." She folded the paper into the pocket of her own spare jacket because he did not have one, and walked him to the front door. He turned once to thank her, and the cold night swallowed him for good. Grace never saw him again. She raised Maya alone. She worked 2 cleaning jobs. She buried her mother over a phone call because she could not afford a flight home to Nigeria. And she never once imagined that a torn piece of a hospital form had changed the life of anyone on this earth. Meanwhile, that bleeding boy grew into a man named David Adeyemi. He studied computer science on a partial scholarship, slept in his car for 2 winters, dropped out once, and came back twice. He built a small software company in his garage that he scaled quietly into a $700 million logistics platform before his 40th birthday. Every single night, for 22 years, David pulled that folded paper from his jacket pocket and read those 5 words out loud before he closed his eyes. He never told a single soul what was written on it. Not his wife, not his partners, not even his own mother. The year he sold his company, he hired a private investigator and gave her one single instruction: find Grace Okonkwo, the Nigerian cleaner who saved me in 1998. It took 14 months of searching. Grace had changed apartments 6 times, had no social media, and no public records. The investigator found her through an old church bulletin, where Grace still volunteers every Saturday to cook meals for homeless families. On that quiet Tuesday morning, Grace opened her door and saw David standing on her cracked welcome mat. He stepped back and said it again. "Grace, I have been looking for you for 22 years." She stared at him and searched his face for some piece of memory and found nothing. He reached slowly into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a small framed square of yellowed paper protected in clear plastic. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. She reached for the frame, and her fingers trembled as she read her own pencil words. "Be brave. Someone is waiting for you," she whispered without breathing. "Baby, you kept it." David nodded through his tears. Then he told her what she had never known. He had been planning to die behind that dumpster that night. The rice, the jacket, and those 5 pencil words had been the only reason he walked away alive. Grace covered her face with both hands and cried so hard her knees gave out. David caught her before she hit the floor. The two of them sat at her small kitchen table for the next 3 hours, while David listened to every story about Maya, about Lagos, and about the nights she had walked home alone in the freezing Cleveland dark. Before he left, he handed her one small cream envelope and asked her to open it only after he was back in his car. Inside, Grace found the signed deed to a 4-bedroom house 6 minutes from Maya's apartment. She found the paperwork for a permanent scholarship fund in her name for Nigerian immigrant women working night shifts in American hospitals. And she found one final, handwritten note. "You saved me," with 5 pencil words and a bowl of rice. "I am only returning what was always yours." Grace sat holding that note until the sun went down. News of their reunion spread across Ohio within 10 days. Hospitals began leaving blank paper slips inside donated winter jackets. Schools asked Grace to speak at graduation assemblies. Maya quit her office job to run her mother's scholarship foundation full-time. David is often introduced on stage as a self-made millionaire. He always corrects the host. "I am not self-made. A Nigerian maid with 2 jobs and a mop saved my life with 5 pencil words and a bowl of rice." Grace never calls herself a hero. She still cleans hospital floors at night, and her prayer has not changed in 22 years. "Lord, let me be useful to someone tonight." So the next time you walk past the cleaning staff at your office or at your hospital, remember Grace's story. One small act of kindness could be the only thing standing between someone and giving up forever. If this story touched you, please share it with one person today who needs to hear it. And hit subscribe so we can keep telling true stories like this every single week.